Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining us today. So we continue with the Bhagavatam, chapter 9, and hopefully chapter 10. I'd like to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can dive into the nectar, at least do a quick overview of these chapters. So this is one of the slokas in chapter 9.
Yattat Brahma Param Sukshman Ansuyam Punya Kalpitam Bhagavan Vasudeveti Yam Vinanti Sattvataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudev, Krishna, is extremely difficult to understand for unintelligent men who accept him as impersonal or void, which he is not. The Lord is therefore understood and sung about by pure devotees.
This is a very nice verse to contradict the Mayavad philosophy, which many people have, that I will become God, or God is impersonal, he doesn't have a form. So this is a very nice verse which counteracts that. 9949, good one to remember. Okay, so we're talking about the chapter's title is the Dynasty of Amshuma. And this chapter describes the history of his dynasty up to Katvanga, Maharaj Katvanga, very interesting character. And it also describes Bhagirath's bringing the Ganga to this world. So the sons of Maharaj Amshuman was Dilip, or the son of him was Dilip, who tried by performing austerities for a long time to bring the Ganga to this world. But unfortunately, he died without succeeding. Then Bhagirath, who is the son of Dilip, was determined to bring the Ganga to the material world. And for this purpose, he underwent even more severe austerities than his father. Mother Ganga, being fully satisfied by his austerities, made herself visible to him, wanting to give him a benediction. So she was very pleased with his tapasya. Bhagirath then asked her to deliver his forefathers, the sons of Sagar, 60,000 sons. So she was very pleased with him, but before agreeing, she had two concerns that needed to be addressed. First, her waters are very forceful. So she was concerned that who will be able to maintain or sustain that force? Otherwise, she might pierce right through the surface of the earth and go down to Patal Lok of this universe. She didn't want to do that. And she also was a little concerned that if I come, so many sinful men will wash their sinful reactions by bathing in the Ganga. And she didn't want to keep all those sinful reactions. So how will she become free from those sinful reactions? Those are the two points that she made. Anybody know what the answers were to those 2 points? Bhagirath had...
First one, Shiva.
Very good. Excellent. Second one?
The pure devotees.
Well done. Both of you. Very good. So Bhagirath replied to Mother Ganga, her two concerns as follows. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva, will be completely able to control the waves of your water. So that was the first answer. I will do tapasya to beg him to contain your water. And second, as you both said, when pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions left by sinful men will be counteracted. Very, very good. Saintly persons who always keep the Lord within their hearts can perfectly cleanse even holy places from all sinful reactions. Therefore, people must honor such devotees and be extremely careful not to offend them. Devotees easily remove the sins accumulated in the Ganga. But who will remove the sins from devotees? It's an interesting question. Only the Lord can remove them. Without the Lord, sin is not destroyed by holy places or atonements. So sometimes accidentally devotees make mistakes. So the Lord, of course, is very kind, compassionate. He removes the sins from those mistakes. Bhagirath pleases Lord Shiva. Bhagirath then performed austerities to satisfy Lord Shiva, who is called Ashutosh, because he's naturally satisfied very easily. Lord Shiva agreed to Bhagirath's proposal to check the force of Ganga. Then with great attention, he sustained the Ganga on his head, or the water of the Ganga is, for the water of the Ganga is purifying, having emanated from the toes of Lord Vishnu. So this was a wonderful pastime. Also, Ganga was thinking, perhaps she was a little bit proud, and Lord Shiva actually trapped her in his hair, showing her that actually, his powers are far superior. The great and saintly king Bhagirath brought the Ganga, which can deliver all the foreign souls, to that place on earth where the bodies of his forefathers lay burnt to ashes. He mounted a swift chariot and drove before Mother Ganga, who followed him, purifying many countries, until they reached the ashes of Bhagirath's forefathers, the sons of Sagar, who were thus sprinkled with water from the Ganga, and all of them became eligible to go to the heavenly planets. What then is to be said of those who use the water of Mother Ganga to worship her? One can only imagine the benefit that accrues to such a devotee. So she's very powerful, very purifying. So Shaudash is cursed by Vashisht. The dynasty of Bhagirath is next described. So here we go. Bhagirath, his son Shuta, Nabha, Siddhudvip, Ayuthayu, Ratuparna, Sarvakam, Saudash. Hang on. There you go. The wife of Shaudash, the last person there, was Damayanti. Yeah, thank you. And Madhyanti. And Saudash was also known as Kalmashapad. Once Shaudash killed a man-eater Rakshas, whose brother decided to take revenge. And he became the cook at Shaudash's palace. One day, the king's spiritual master Vashisht was invited for dinner. And who cooked for him? It was the Rakshas. And he served him human flesh. Now Vashisht, by his mystic powers, understood this. He became very angry. And he thought it was the king, Shaudash, who was trying to contaminate him. So he cursed him to become a man-eater, carnivore. Carnivores. Carnivore? Oh no, what's that? Who eats men?
Cannibals.
Cannibal. When Vashisht understood that the human flesh had been served by the Rakshas, not by the king, then he realized he made a mistake. And he himself did austerities for 12 years to cleanse himself for having cursed the king unnecessarily. The king was not at fault. It was this cook who had come to take revenge on the king. Anyway, he'd been cursed, right? Shaudash thus acquired the propensity of a man-eater. And while walking through the forest, he saw a Brahmin engaged in sex with his wife. And because he had become a Rakshas, he wanted to devour the Brahman. This is pretty heavy stuff. Although the Brahman's wife pleaded with him in many ways, Saudash ate the Brahman. And the wife therefore cursed him, saying, as soon as you engage in sex, you will die. So after 12 years, because his curse was limited by time, because he was unfairly cursed. After 12 years, therefore, even though Saudash was released from the curse of Vasishtha Muni, he remained childless, no children. At that time, with Saudash's permission, Vasishtha impregnated Saudash's wife. So this is a standard procedure sometimes. We've seen it in the Mahabharata as well. Vyasadeva was requested to impregnate in order to continue the dynasty of Satyavati. So Madhyanti, because she bore the child, she decided not to give birth. She bore the child for 7 years and still could not give birth. So then Vasishtha struck her abdomen with a stone, and thus a son was born. This son was named Ashmaka, the child born of a stone. Ashmaka's dynasty. The son of Ashmaka was known as Balika. He was protected from the curse of Parshuram because of being surrounded by many women. And therefore he is also known as Narika Vacha. When the entire world was devoid of Kshatriyas, he became the original father of more Kshatriyas. He is therefore sometimes called Mulaka. So this is the dynasty of Balika. Dashrath. It's not the same Dashrath as Maharaj Dashrath of Ayodhya. Aidavadi, Vishva, Saha, and then we have this famous king Katvanga. So let's go into Katvanga's pastimes. Due to his prowess, the demigods requested Maharaj Katvanga to join them in the fighting of the demons, with the demons. Being victorious, and they won. Maharaj Katvanga was such a fantastic fighter that the demigods, with him on their side, the demigods won. And they wanted to give him a benediction. They were so pleased with the king. And the king, such a great devotee, he asked a really amazing question. How long has he got to live? And he was informed that his life was only to last a few more moments. I think that one moment was one Murta, wasn't it?
Mm.
So he immediately left the heavenly planets and returned to his own abode by airplane. So the demigods brought him home very quickly. I think it was within 20 minutes or something like that. He was back home. Murta is about 48 minutes. And that's one moment in heaven. So they brought him very quickly back home. He could understand that everything in this material world is insignificant. And thus he fully engaged in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. Even though the demigods have the advantages of being situated in higher planetary systems, their minds, senses, and intelligence are agitated by material conditions. Therefore, even such elevated persons fail to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally situated in the core of the heart. What then is to be said of others, such as human beings, who have fewer advantages? Thus, Maharaj Katvanga, by his advanced intelligence in rendering service to the Lord, gave up false identification with the body full of ignorance. This is amazing. In his original position of eternal servitorship, he engaged himself in rendering service to the Lord, and he attained this spiritual world. So this was really fantastically fortunate, very, very lucky, very, very devoted. He attained the spiritual world. we are not so lucky to get such notice. And he had such great control of mind that he fixed himself on the Supreme Lord. One can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once, within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after millions of births. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact. Katwanga Maharaj attained this state of life just a few minutes before his death by surrendering on to Krishna. Very fortunate soul. Great example as well. Sometimes living entities in this world get an idea that they're going to leave this world. And at that time, nothing should matter other than focusing on the Supreme Lord. Whether we've done a will or whether the rent has been paid or we've got some hidden assets somewhere which we've forgotten to tell everybody, or everything is irrelevant. Just focusing on the Supreme Lord is the most important thing. So that's the end of chapter 9. Any questions, any comments?
Yeah, Prabhuji, there's one query or, well, a point to clarify rather.
Yes.
So, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I just, when I know Anu's names are amazing. Yeah, he was told that his forefathers could only be liberated by the Ganges water. So obviously he wanted to bring down the Ganges. And obviously Bhagirath succeeds in that. So understand that Lord Shiva takes the burden, the force of the Ganges, and then it flows down. And so we know from the pastime of Vamandev that his toe had pierced the material scoring, and then the Ganges or the causal water had flowed down. Was that part of the Ganges as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that flows down to the higher planets, and then came up to the, I think it came up to the 7 sages.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's right. And then he goes down further, and then all the demigods could go to those planets and bring it in their aeroplanes or something.
That's right. Yeah, good memory. Well done.
You know, they bring the waters of the Ganges from using the aeroplanes or something.
Yes,
that's how I read
correct.
it. And then they would bring it to their planets. And so the Ganges had already come to a certain point anyway. So then from that on, that's when Bhagirath brings it further down into the material realms, to the earth and all that, I think.
Yep. That's fine. Yeah, that sounds right.
Just to understand that already the Ganges had been up to a certain point. So
that's right.
Then Bhagirath brings it down towards the material world, and he brings it to the point where his forefathers' ashes were lying. And we saw that in yesterday's chapter that they actually, because they kind of disrespected Kapil Dev, that their bodies had burnt to ashes. And that they go. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
So then they get liberated. Then the Ganges water flows through Ardwar and other place and all that. But then obviously the question, as you know, the Ganges, Ganga is concerned that, you know, who will purify me? Because certainly there'll be a lot of sins that, you know, people will come there to wash and all that. So we understand that it's the pure devotees, and that was clarified even by, Rian's answer that the Lord Shiva will take the force, and then the pure devotees would certainly, when they bathe, they would nullify or rather purify Ganges water even. Oh, amazing. Okay. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you very much.
In fact, the way I understand it, where Kapil was, he was, I believe, meditating in the lower planetary systems. And that's where the horse was. He wasn't on Earth, as far as I remember. So Ganga had to continue. So Bhagirath was in front, Ganga was following. And then they went to Janu, if you remember Janu, who swallowed Ganga. And then he released her. And they continued that journey through the Bay of Bengal. And then Ganga went further. into the lower regions where the sons of Sagar were burnt to ashes, and then they were liberated. But we actually, I think, when we did the abodes of the Lord, or the different things, we talked about Ganga, how she flows down. I'll see if I can dig it out and
at one point anyway, but this is connecting. This is like a part of it.
Yeah,
part of the journey of Ganga. So it's
very interesting.
Very interesting, yeah.
And also, what happened? It wasn't just Ganga who came through the toe. Yamuna was there as well. So both came. And Yamuna went different directions. Sorry, who was that?
Yeah, because when it falls onto Mount Meru, it goes into sort of 4 directions. It goes in the north, certain directions, and certain, so it becomes Yamuna, Saraswati, and other rivers. And because Yamuna, it is certainly the causal water that from the ocean.
Correct.
That comes down, then it becomes Ganga. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we'll have a good look at that one day.
Okay, Haribol, Hare
Thank
Krishna.
Thank you for sharing. So let's look at 10th canto. This is really interesting, of course.
Nadi vyadi jaraglani dukha shokha bhayaklama mrityus chani chatam nashed rame rajani dokshaje. When Lord Ramchandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the king of this world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it.
Okay. So then from Katwanga's dynasty goes on Dirga Bahu, Raghu, and this is Raghuvamshi, very interesting personality. Aja, whose son was Dashrath. And Dashrath, he was the cause of Bharat, Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughan. Okay, pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. 10th canto describes Lord Ramachandra's pastimes in the dynasty of Katwanga. So Katwanga is very powerful, very amazing personality. And this chapter talks about how Ravana was killed and Ram returned to Ayodhya. So we just basically gone through that. The son of Maharaj Katwanga was Dirga Bahu, whose son was Raghu, whose son was Aja, whose son was Dashrath, and the son of Dashrath was Ramachandra. When the Lord descends in this world in his quadruple expansion, as Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, Shatrughan, great sages like Valmiki, who are actually in knowledge of the absolute truth, described his transcendental pastimes. So Sukadev Goswami is saying to Parikshit Maharaj, you've heard these pastimes again and again, because your parents have been telling you, and your guru has been talking about Ram. So I'm gonna just tell you in brief. I won't tell you in detail. Otherwise, Ramayana is 100,000 verses. So Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses. So the rest of the Bhagavatam could have been Ram Leela. But Shukadev Goswami made it clear to Parikshit, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Ram, because you know enough. To keep the promise of his father intact, Lord Ramachandra immediately gave up the position of king and, accompanied by his wife, Mother Sita, wandered from one forest to another on his lotus feet, which are so delicate that they were unable to bear even the touch of Sita's palms. The Lord was also accompanied by Hanuman and by his own younger brother, Lakshman. So this is this beautiful pastime, beautiful picture encapsulating his pastimes. Having cut off the nose and ears of Surpanaka, thus disfiguring her, the Lord was separated from Mother Sita. He therefore became angry, moving his eyebrows and thus frightening the ocean, who then allowed the Lord to construct a bridge to cross the ocean. Subsequently, the Lord entered the kingdom of Ravana to kill him. like a fire devouring a forest. May that Supreme Lord Ramachandra give us all protection. Lord Ramachandra went with Vishwamitra and killed Rakshasas like Maricha. After breaking the strong bow known as Haradhanu, which was so heavy it had to be carried by 300 men, the Lord married Mother Sita. While returning from Sita's home, he cut down the prestige of Parshuram. To obey the order of his father, he entered the forest, accompanied by Lakshman and Sita. There he cut off the nose of Surpanaka and killed the associates of Ravana, headed by Kara and Dushana. Ravan's kidnapping of Sita Devi was the beginning of the demon's misfortune. When Maricha assumed the form of a golden deer, Lord Ramachandra went to bring the deer to please Sita Devi. But in the meantime, Ravan took advantage of the Lord's absence to kidnap her. Actually, it was impossible for Ravan to kidnap Sita. The form of Sita taken by Ravan was an illusionary representation of Sita. When Sita was tested in the fire after Ravan's death, Agni, the demigod of fire, brought her, the real Sita, back to Ram. So, some pictures to go with their pastimes. Supanak. This is the killing of the Vishwamitra's demons. Swayamvar of Sita. The glorious Ramachandra, most handsome personality of Godhead. This is Parshuram in the court of the wedding. Ravan grabbing Sita. When Sita Devi was kidnapped, Lord Ramachandra wandered in the forest with his brother Lakshman in search of her, as if very much distressed due to separation from his wife. Thus he showed by personal example the condition of a person attached to women. Now, from the spiritual point of view, Ram is the source and reservoir of all spiritual pleasure. He cannot experience material suffering. His lamentation was not like an ordinary lamentation that we would go through. His separation from Sita was an activity of his pleasure potency, Hiladini Shakti. His dealings of conjugal love, Shringas Ras, displayed spiritual emotions, Sattvika and Sanchari Bhav, like lamentation, Vilapa, fainting, Muracha, and madness, Unmad, in separation from Sita. So these are all spiritual experiences. They're not connected with material experiences. Ram is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So his lamentation is of a spiritual experience, not a material experience. The search for Sita. In the course of the search for Sita, they met Jatayu, who had been fatally wounded by Ravana. Lord Ramachandra performed his final rites, just like he would have performed the final rites of his father Dashrath. But he didn't get the opportunity to do that. So he treated the funeral, the final rites of Jatayu, just like he would have done so for his own father. Then the Lord killed the demon Kabanda, and the commander Vali, establishing a friendship with Sugriv. After organizing the military strength of the monkeys and going with them to the shores of the sea in order to rescue Sita, the Lord awaited the arrival of Samudra, the ocean personified. He fasted for 3 days. But when Samudra did not come, the Lord, the master of Samudra, became angry simply by his glancing over the ocean. All the living entities within it, including the crocodiles and sharks, were agitated by fear. And they petitioned Samudra. Samudra came to the Lord with great haste and surrendered to him, glorifying him and wanting to help him in every way. Samudra requested the Lord to construct a bridge over the ocean. Very nice pastimes described here. So Jatayu, brave Jatayu, stopped Ravana in his tracks. He knew he was going to lose, but yet he had no hesitation to fight for the Lord. Fantastic example. We know we're going to lose in this world. Guaranteed we're going to lose. This world is just overpowering. But if we go down serving the Lord, then there's no loss. Destroy our body in the service of the Lord, then there's no loss. Sita was kidnapped, Jatayu injured fatally, and Ramachandra, such a loving relationship with his devotee. Extraordinary. Then, of course, the wonderful meeting with Hanuman and the friendship that he made with Sugriva as Jambavan.
Prabhu, I heard that they circumambulated Agni.
What did they do?
They circumambulated Agni to make friends.
When?
When they met. They circumambulated him.
Okay, we've lost you again. Anyway, you can tell us later.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. So when did they circumambulate Agni?
When they met. When they
with
wanted
Hanuman?
to make... No, Prabhuji, with Sugriva.
Oh, was it? Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. And then this is Vali, Ramachandra behind some trees, killed Vali. And then that's always been a little bit of a controversial pastime. And then Bali, he accepts, yes, Ramachandra, you're right. He accused him, why did you kill me in such a way? You're a great hero. But then Ram explained to him and Bali completely accepted. Then Hanuman created some chaos in Lanka. This is Ram and waiting for the ocean. Samudra. Who's that?
Squirrel.
Oh, yeah. Waiting patiently with the squirrel. He doesn't come, so Ram gets agitated. And then Samudra comes and advises him.
The arrow fell into a bad place.
Is there as well?
So all can die there. Bad
Sorry?
people are there.
Sorry?
There is a place where bad people stay. In that place, the arrow has gone.
Okay. And then they constructed the bridge.
And Rama promised that if any arrow he takes, he can't put it back.
So where did he shoot
That's
the
why
arrow?
it went and so in a bad place where many kings they are bad demons, but they are acting kings.
Yes. Yes, I remember you telling us before. Well done. So after constructing a bridge over the ocean by throwing into the water the peaks of mountains, whose trees and other vegetation has been shaken by the hands of great monkeys, with the help of advice from Vibhishan, Ramachandra attacked Ravana's capital, Lanka. Previously, Hanuman, the eternal servant of the Lord, had set fire to Lanka, and now, with the help of Lakshman, the forces of Ramachandra killed all the Rakshas soldiers. Then Lord Ramachandra personally killed Ravana. Mandodari and other wives lamented for Ravana, and in accordance with Lord Ramachandra's order, Vibhishan performed the funeral ceremonies for all the dead in the family. This was a really amazing thing. This
Prabhuji, did you heard this joke?
Sorry?
Prabhuji, did you heard this joke?
Heard what?
Did you heard a joke, Prabhuji, from Ramayana?
What joke was that?
Once Vishnu was writing
You're cutting out.
Ram. Project no.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're going to say. Rama. Ra is Ram, So Ra is Ravan and Ma is Mandodari. I told you that joke, young man. Anyway, let's carry on. Importance of the funeral ceremony. After giving up the body, one is transferred to another body. That's called reincarnation. But sometimes, if one is too sinful, one becomes a ghost. To save oneself from ghostly life, the funeral ceremony or Shrad is prescribed in the scriptures. So Ravan was destined for hellish life, but Ram advised Vibhishan to perform all duties prescribed in relation to the dead. Ram was kind to Ravan even after death. So this is interesting. Ram advised Vibhishan, do the Shrad ceremony for your crazy brother. And he did. Lord Ramachandra then gives Vibhishan the right to rule Lanka and also granted him a long duration of life. The Lord delivered Sita Devi from the Ashoka forest and carried her in a flower airplane to his capital, Ayodhya, where he was received by his brother Bharat, as well as Lord Brahma and the Devatas who glorified the Lord's activities. So this is the defeating the army, killing of Ravan. Lord Ramachandra heard that in his absence, his brother Bharat was eating barley cooked in the urine of a cow, covered his body with the bark of trees, wore matted locks of hair, and he was lying on the mattress of kush grass. The most merciful Lord very much lamented this. Bharat was overjoyed seeing Ram, and he fell at his lotus feet. When Ramachandra entered Ayodhya, Bharat brought his wooden shoes. Vibhishan and Sugriv held a whisk and fan. Hanuman carried an umbrella. Shatrughan carried the Lord's bow and 2 quivers. Sita Devi carried a water pot containing water from holy places. Angad carried a sword, and Jambavan, oh, he's got another name, huh? Riksharaj carried a shield. After Lord Ramachandra, accompanied by Lord Lakshman and Sita Devi, met all the relatives, the sage Vashishta enthroned him as king. Lord Ramachandra's rule in Ayodhya during Treta Yuga was like Satya Yuga. Everyone was completely happy. When he was the king of the world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. So you could choose to continue to live. Ram could have married again when Sita was kidnapped, but by her submissive, faithful, shy, chaste, and understanding character and her love and service, she completely attracted the mind of the Lord. So this is them returning back to Ayodhya. That's them coming back. That's the aeroplane.
Prabhuji, can I present this one day? I made a presentation.
You certainly can. When would you like to do it? This is them coming on the Just let me know when you want to do it.
Monday, Prabhuji.
Monday.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Okay, that's good. How long it will take?
We can take 40 minutes.
Okay, but your internet has to be clear, okay?
Okay, Prabhuji.
So then this is meeting the mothers, the coronation, and the group photo, another group photo. The Devatas are there as well. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Ganpati, Narad Muni. So this is Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, chapter 10 ki jai, Ramachandra Bhagavan ki jai. Any questions, any comments?
Nice. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Nice to know that the Ayodhya temple is going to be built.
Yes. Yes.
They've got the permission to remove the mosque that's been there for a long time. And well, it was built on top of the other temple anyway. So we'll see what unfolds there. Haribol.
Very good point. Yes, yes. Okay. Anybody else? Otherwise, Madhusudan Babu, you can continue with the instructions.
Oh, okay. Haribol. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Okay, let me go to. So we Hare Krishna, can you hear me all right? Yes. Yeah, chapter 9. So we are instructed in chapter 9 as to how the Ganges descended into the material world by Bhagirath. And Srila Prabhupada mentions this purport that devotees and saintly persons advanced in renounced order can deliver even the Ganges. Tirthi kurvanti tirthani swantaha stena gatabrita. Says Bhagavatam 113. So we may have come across it in first Canto actually, but because saintly devotees always keep the Lord within the core of their hearts, they can perfectly cleanse the holy places of all sinful reactions. So this verse was actually said by somebody, so that's by Katwanga. So, he is saying, I didn't mean to insert this, but it's good anyway, it's good instruction. That Katwanga, when at the end of that chapter, he says, I was never attracted, even in my childhood, by insignificant things and irreligious principles. I did not find anything more substantial than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it just shows how devotees always keep the Lord within their heart, and they only see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as most significant than anything else. It's proven by Katwanga. So chapter 10, we are being instructed to perform Shraddha ceremony, and in the Prabhupada express. So in this chapter, the relevant point is also that the Lord Ram actually instructs Vibhishan to perform the Shraddha, so that, as you just read, that, to save a diseased person from ghostly life, the funeral ceremony or Shraddha ceremony, as prescribed in the authorized Shastra, must be performed. Ravana was killed by Lord Ramchandra and was destined for hellish life. But by Lord Ramchandra's advice, Vibhishan, Ravana's brother, performed all the duties prescribed in relation to the dead. Thus, Lord Ramachandra was kind to Ravan even after Ravan's death. So this is the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord. He is also kind to a person like Ravana. Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Anybody, any comments on the instructions? Any questions? Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.